asking me, literally, what's the truth versus what the narrative says?
It's an inside job, for sure. Don't be foolish that all of a sudden they broke in 15 different places in the fence and nobody showed up for 8 hours.
I'll be honest, I'm a little bit nervous about this one. This. So we will be recorded now, and then I'll do an intro in a minute.
All right.
I'll probably put this as an outtakes thing that I only post to my Substack for like subscribers.
Yeah, good.
Yeah. That way I make a little cash.
Yeah, I get you. I'm about to do that too. But then I was like, I have to make content.
You don't love making content?
How am I supposed to be a homeschool mom, fight for our freedoms, do my job right, and have a Substack?
Because you're Leigh-Allyn Baker.
Oh my
do it
God.
all. Where were we though? The Disney thing. Oh yeah, the hardest thing for me to give up was like Disney Plus because of all the library of movies that I grew up with. That
My
I
entire
love.
show is on Disney Plus.
Yeah, so you're probably mad at me.
You cut me?
I cut you. I cut all of it though. To be fair, all of it.
This is the. Can I tell you the phrase?
Well,
that,
let me. But,
yes.
but like when you turn on Snow White or you turn on The Jungle Book or the 50s and 60s and 70s era Disney films, and they all bring up that screen that says like we apologize. This film was made with not a lack of understanding for the way.
Oh my gosh, are we that sensitive?
Yeah. We shouldn't have done it then, and we apologize for it now. But enjoy our film.
Snow White. Hey, crazy concept. Guy with a knife, jealous woman wants to kill this young innocent girl. Guy with a knife comes up behind her. Yeah, that's not cool. But do you need to set an apology for that? Did they put an apology in front of horror films? Like it's just all stupid.
Yeah, I didn't even think that. I thought they were more apologizing because there weren't any African Americans in Snow White. Something like that. Because you saw the most recent Snow White, right?
I did not see it because
But you saw what they were trying to make it.
I saw what they were trying. Like I'm sitting here saying people should be less sensitive, but I was offended. So when you work in children's programming, one of the things that you encounter is a lot of little people, and they're great actors. And I have friends that worked on Good Luck Charlie as stand-ins because they're adults. They stand in for the kids that are incredible actors. And like, here's a role that you can step into that like it could be done at such a high level. And you're going to take it away from an actual little person in the name of equity and inclusion to include what? Someone who's not a little person? Are you kidding me? It's just, none of it makes sense. I always say it's like we are living in Dr. Seuss's Wacky Wednesday, but it's like every day of the week.
Totally. Yeah, it's crazy. You gonna get rocking and rolling?
Let's rock it.
All right. So I'll do one of just me, kind of introing the show.
Sure thing.
And then we'll go from there.
Yeah, you're good to go.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me today on Jay Slay, Made in the USA, where we explore truth, expose deception, and inspire courage. Guys, I've got a guest today that's been a long time coming, a good personal friend of mine, and also a former, maybe ongoing actress, but just not a Disney actress. Leigh-Allyn Baker's joining us on the show today. Someone that Hollywood and the mainstream celebrity culture cannot control, and we are so proud of her. Leigh-Allyn Baker, thanks for coming on the show.
Hello. My mother, to this day, you said they cannot control me. My mother is like, finally, someone gets what it was like to parent her.
Well, they've kicked you out of half the things that you were doing, right?
100%. Kicked out, kicked to the curb.
For those of my audience that is not familiar with your story, and many of them would be, but for those that aren't, give us the brief, lay of the land going back to your time in California at the height of your career with Disney, Good Luck Charlie, all of it, and kind of what led you away from that.
So Good Luck Charlie was a big hit. It was the #1 show in the world at the time, actually. And I was the mom on that show. And it was the first, I always thought that Disney Channel was where adults' careers go to die. That was kind of my slogan that I had about it. And then one day it dawned on me, why don't I just go where the love is and see where that takes me? And I had a show for HBO and had all these other pilots that had been canceled or not picked up. And here was this show, Good Luck Charlie, and it was just instant chemistry with the cast. I really loved the network. I loved the executives at the network. It was just an incredible experience, and continued to work with them, executive producing and starring in movies like Bad Hair Day, even until the end, until actually January of 2020, maybe even February of 2020. I had done a pilot for them that was waiting to see if it got picked up. I was still ongoing working with them. And then COVID was introduced into society.
Mm-hmm.
And I did not comply.
That was your hill not to die on, but not to comply on.
That's right.
Right?
That's my thing.
Yeah.
Before we make this a hill to die on, can we please make it a hill to not comply on? I don't like being the face of the anti-vax movement. That's what I've been labeled as, along with a domestic terrorist.
Right. By someone that matters.
I was labeled a domestic terrorist by the President of the United States, Mr. Joe Biden.
Good for you.
Yep, fumbling Joe. Yep, thank you, sir.
It's an honor.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
I have another.
I'm honored to be with you for that.
Right.
That's great.
Yeah, because I spoke at a school board meeting, but I digress. So I basically saw immediately with the pandemic that Bill Gates had come out and said that there was no way we could go back to normal until everyone, received a vaccine. And he and Melinda Gates had donated $180 million, I believe, to rush a vaccine. So I'd also read Warren Buffett's book where he talks about the only untapped market for vaccination is an adult mandatory schedule like they have for kids, and how many billions they could make off of that. So you put a few smoking guns together and your children have been vaccinated.
And I'm sure at some point in that process, you bring up Bill Gates, where you saw that he attended along with many others.
I saw Event 201.
Event 201. Like, how do you do that? Only a few months before there's going to be this big outbreak of a, flu-like virus,
They called it a coronavirus.
Yeah.
They actually gave away plushies that looked like the actual coronavirus at the event.
Did you get a plushie?
I did. I went and I was incognito. Hello, I'm here dressed as Amy Duncan. Don't pay me no mind. It's insane. I don't know if all your viewers know this, but so there was an event. So anyway, I hate to be the like what they label me, the anti-vaxxer, but it is part of my origin story. My children were injured by their vaccines, their childhood vaccines. One of them had encephalitis, swelling of the brain that ended in a seizure from it. And my doctors were like, well, yes, it is a reaction. We're so sorry. But I really didn't find out how big of a reaction it was until I looked in the Merck pharmaceutical manual. So the drug company was actually more honest than my own doctor was about it.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. And then my other child had suffered neurological damage as well as physical symptoms after every vaccination. And it's all recorded, of course. So we had a medical exemption. And at the end of 2019, Gavin Newsom was really pushing behind closed doors in California to take away all medical exemptions from children in the state of California. That's only 4,000 children in that entire state of California. But they wanted to take it away. And it was very clear that it was in preparation for this pandemic. So all of the smoking guns kind of aligned.
Wait, when was that again?
End of 2019. Yeah.
Okay. Nice timing, right?
Yeah, it was right after Event 201. That immediately led into California taking away all medical exemptions. So Event 201 was this event sponsored by Bill and Melinda Gates. You can always count on them for a good time. So there, and the John Hopkins did it too.
Right.
That was in partnership with them. And you can watch it, unless they've scrubbed it from the internet, about how they all sat around a table talking about if a coronavirus broke loose and made a pandemic, how would we respond to this? Discussions of martial law were brought up. I mean, you just start looking around and asking questions.
It was an exact layout of exactly what came around in early 2020.
They literally had
Yes.
people pretending to be CNN reporters and how they would report the news. They had China at the table. How do we get China at the table? They also had the guy from Johnson & Johnson. This is where I was like, what? The guy from Johnson & Johnson, who at this point has only made baby powder and cleaning products for your home. They turn him and say, well, when this pandemic happens, you'll be the one to fast track and make a vaccine. So do you want to speak on the vaccine? And I was like, whoa, when did Johnson & Johnson become, it wasn't like Merck Pharmaceutical, Sanofi Pasteur, one that you would anticipate to have been making vaccines. It was Johnson & Johnson. And he spoke with authority and then referred to the guy with like the general on like how we would implement these with martial law. Well, a mother who has children who almost died from their vaccines, who have been told by doctors they cannot have another or they will surely die. If you don't think my ears perked up at the mention of all of this, and all of it, suddenly, everything that was blurry came into crystal clear focus about what this agenda was.
Yes.
So my perspective when the pandemic came out was a little different.
Sure.
I had seen events unfold from a different area of the theater.
A lot of us early on in 2020, even though those who stood up, because I came out very strongly against the whole, I mean, I was calling it the scamdemic and all those things pretty quickly. However, early on, you are afraid because you're hearing the news from all angles and everybody's saying, if you don't mask up and if you don't keep your distance and stay at home, you're liable to kill very many people, just by walking around the grocery store.
They got us all for sure on fear, right? I even initially washed my groceries. I washed because
wiping down the cereal box.
I was wiping down because my thought was, gosh, man, you go to Disneyland or Disney World or any theme park and you touch stuff and put your hands in your mouth, you're gonna get sick, right? But wait a second. Then they come out too excited and say, you don't get it by touching things.
Mm-hmm. Oh, there was all kinds of going back on what they said before and doubling down and changing.
I was like, you don't get it by touching things?
Yeah.
But, okay. And this mask is going to protect me. Okay.
Well, two masks. What was a certain type of mask you have to wear too?
Did you know, this is a scientific fact. Okay. I've experienced this, that if you fart and you can smell it through a pair of jeans, your underwear, and two masks, that this particle of a virus that is smaller.
It's a beautiful visual you're giving all of us.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, right.
It's not effective. Yeah. It's just so that a bunch of elites can sit in a room and laugh their asses off at how dumb you are.
Well, do you think it was also a trial run for what they can get away with globally?
Yes.
Yeah. There were certain defining moments. That's probably the wrong way to say it, but like the straw that broke the camel's back for me was watching Event 201, which people can find that. I posted the whole thing on my Rumble channel 2 years ago. Just type in Event 201 Jay Slay USA. But that was one. Another one was, based on numbers, and there was multiple times that this happened to me. But it was when I looked up, okay, what's the average age of death in the United States, regardless of just average age of death? And it was like 71 years old.
Yeah.
And then I looked up what's the average age of a COVID death, and it was 71 years old. And I was like, okay. I mean, they're able to pull the wool over on us so big. But so what was your defining moment, for lack of a better way to say it, of what kind of woke you up, even though you came into it differently than most people due to your children?
Well, like I said, it's when I realized going to my doctors about my children's injury, and they said, well, we're a clinic that believes in full vaccination because they get financial kickbacks, but we'll refer you to a doctor that can give you a medical exemption or who doesn't require vaccination for all of his patients. So I went to that doctor, Jay Gordon, and he agreed that my children had been injured. I mean, it was, the other doctors knew it too. And he gave me a medical exemption because, well, they almost died. And then even he started changing his tune of, well, the laws have changed.
Right.
The laws may have changed. My kids' injuries didn't. Fun fact.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I just went knee deep at that point. This was even before COVID, on vaccination. And then I realized they don't want to hear my story. They don't want to make them safer. It is beyond that. And it's hard to get people to understand that there are evil people out there who will cut your kids' throats to make a buck. They don't believe that. They think that people are inherently good and that my kids just had a weird allergic reaction to aluminum and mercury and things that cause the body to be poisoned and neurological damage, you know? So they don't quite understand that, no, there is a very nefarious thing going on. It's a very eugenist, a eugenic program that is being pushed through by Bill Gates.
There's no doubt. When I spoke with you at an event that we were both, a small event, it was in the neighborhood that you moved to, And I had talked about some of the experiences that I had. It wasn't like a woe is me kind of thing. She's like, here's what you're going to have to face if you speak the truth. And at that time, it was right in the middle of the BLM riots. I think this was late 2021 or early 2022. And so I was talking about that. I was talking about standing up for medical freedom and just the kind of, the friendships you'll lose, things like that. And I remember after I got done speaking, you got emotional about it. Because of, I think, what you had experienced. So I understand people didn't want to hear your story. You'd been through it with your own kids already. The doctors are changing their tune. But you left the state.
Yes.
I think
I fled overnight with my kids. I literally looked at my husband and said, it was when Gavin Newsom came out and said, everyone is going to have it. And then I matched that with the head of the World Health Organization, not Tedros, the chubbier Irish guy, saying that the disease has now infiltrated the home and we're going to need to pull kids out. I did one drive-by down the street from myself, and there were quarantine camps for children up. Quarantine camps for children. I asked them, what are these? They're like, back away, ma'am, this is a quarantine camp. And on all the signs said, we want people who are good with children. I matched that with what the World Health Organization said, and I was out.
Yeah.
Literally. That was a Thursday. I was out on Saturday.
And what city were you in?
I was in Los Angeles.
Okay, wow.
I was in Los Angeles.
The belly of the beast.
I was in the belly of the beast. And I looked at my husband and I said, look, I'm leaving tomorrow with the kids and the good dog. And we love you and we hope you join us. And I left him and my.
So he was not on board.
He was on board, but he got on board. He was like, what is happening? Yeah. He thought that,
well, you were busy doing research.
And he wasn't.
He wasn't, right?
He was not doing research about what was going on in the world. And that's the big thing with COVID, is that you locked me down with computer and access to information that you probably didn't want me to have access to.
And well, they were proving that. I remember I got kicked off of Instagram for a brief time on my main platform because I was using the hashtag natural immunity. And I knew that was another one that was a big kicker in my mind, is if you've got the big tech platforms censoring something that even Tony Fauci was saying 10 years ago is the best thing to fight against any viral transmission is natural immunity.
Yes.
And now you're censoring us for saying that?
Right.
I knew there was a problem.
Yeah, I was censored for, I took a picture of the side of a box of masks.
Yes.
Saying that it does not stop viruses, and that's not what it's meant for or made for. And I mean, whoa.
Yeah.
Wow.
They were contradicting themselves at every angle.
Yeah.
What do you think about Gavin Newsom? And I ask you these questions because you were from California.
I lived there for 30 years. I left overnight to keep my kids safe and for my freedoms. And I'm so tired of people saying, what should I do? I could lose my job. Guess what? I lost everything. Disney made it very clear that we are not together anymore. I've had death threats. I've had threats on my children's lives. And if they say to me, you have to conform to this communist bullcrap, or you have to take a shot, or you lose your home, then I will live in a tent. I am not complying. So don't come to me and ask me, what should you do because you might lose your job? Been there, done that, check, moving on. Like, you do what's right, Zuckerberg. You find out what a man is made of in the heat of the moment. And Zuckerberg is pretty shallow and paper thin, because in the time of tyranny, he jumped on board with it.
100%. I would say he was one of the pillars of censorship.
He was a pillar of censorship.
And on top of that, I mean, he's trying to jump on the Trump train to some degree and all that stuff. But we got to remember, this is a man that was giving hundreds of millions of dollars to his opposition in 2020. And did you see that 1,000 Mules?
No, I haven't seen it.
Okay. Well, it definitely gets into the Zuckerbucks and how involved he was in that election and in some of the fraud. So we can circle back to him, but I want to park on Gavin Newsom for a minute.
Let's do it. Let's park there.
Yeah. So we got the fires now, but let's go back to that era, because he was going and having dinners at the French Laundry with no mask on, right in the middle of it. And Nancy Pelosi going to get her hair done, no mask on, thought no cameras were on.
That's what I tried saying at the time. One of the things that I said was online, on Instagram and on Facebook and Twitter was, here's what people are missing about that. They're saying, oh, well, he may have had a meeting, or, oh, his job is important. They make excuses for him. What they're missing is the main point. They're not afraid.
Exactly.
She's not afraid to take her mask off and get her hair done with all sorts of people around her. He's not afraid to go out to a restaurant. He's not afraid. He knows it's not a dangerous thing. He just does.
Yeah.
But I'm shocked that I just thought that people would see, oh, look at her. She goes out with no mask on and she didn't die. Maybe it's not so deadly.
Yeah.
But no. I went out without a mask and they were like, she's the luckiest person alive to have survived the deadliest disease ever. So deadly, you have to stick a swab from China with ethylene oxide up your nose to your brain to see if you have it.
Yeah. Crazy. You know, we could pick on the left wing all day because they pushed it the hardest. There's no doubt about that. The governors and otherwise, they were all on with this globalist agenda. But I feel like some of it was Kabuki theater where, you know, you've got the right wing kind of pretending to fight, but at the same time, they shut down businesses. They basically, even Governor Bill Lee said very similar things early on. Now, it wasn't as hardcore, but it was still basically the same message for a long, extended period of time.
Yeah,
I mean, the school boards here in Williamson County they were masking up kids for way too long. They had to see the same things that we were seeing.
Of course they did.
And these are all Republicans.
Yeah, to me, it's not left wing or right wing. To me, it's sometimes those are two wings of the same bird and that are trying to shove us all into this one world order cage. And I just want to stay out of that cage.
Yes.
So every day I ask myself questions of like, how do I stay out of that? You know, I get nervous about this, I get nervous about this movement of the right that is like, let's destroy this system. It's like, oh, wow, they're both talking about destroying the system. Well, are they both trying to lead us into a one world order? I mean,
There's many
that would
reasons.
really suck,
well,
right?
100%. Let me give one prime example of this, and it goes to the man that we both voted for, would be Donald Trump. He's never gone back on his stance on vaccines. Now, he would always be more along the lines of, hey, ivermectin I think is helpful. And, the left crucified him for that. But at the same time, he told everyone, I think these vaccine pharmaceutical companies are great people. We've done an unbelievable job. He called himself the father of the vaccine. He encouraged everybody to get it.
He's very proud of it still.
Very proud of it still to this day.
Kids are dying of myocarditis.
Okay, so
and he is proud of it.
Knowing, his base, he knows that 2/3 of his base hate his stance on this.
Yes.
So why is he still doing it?
Good question.
Does he actually believe it, in your opinion?
No, I don't think so.
Then he's got to be beholden to interests.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Sometimes God allows you into certain rooms to know people on a personal level where you get some information. And I've been a part of this community of parents and doctors who have been fighting for the truth about vaccines for a long time. So there are doctors that his family has had that I know he knows the dangers of vaccines. He has. I don't even need to decode this. He has said publicly they are not horses; they are babies. He has said publicly a woman took her child into the office, 2 years old. They gave him a round of vaccines. The child gone, mentally autism. He has said that. That was his quote.
His being.
No, I don't know if it's his. I'm saying he has stated that.
Who's he?
Donald Trump has stated that.
Okay, I was just making
Donald Trump has stated that. That is a quote of his.
Yeah.
So now all of a sudden they're the greatest thing, and we saved so many lives with it.
Yeah. I've seen a shift over 8 years of him being very strong, very uncontrollable by the the so-called deep state or globalists, to really kind of aligning, especially with the big tech bros, which we can get into this conversation a little later. But I'll put it this way, it concerns me.
Yeah, exactly. Do I have hope that he would be up and come in and like God has opened the door for America to have a window of mercy and he's going to come in and be the guy? Do I hope? Sure. But here's what I had to vote for. I had an incompetent lunatic that is just like can't even form a sentence.
Yeah.
who doesn't
Literally.
think for herself and is just a controlled puppet, and a guy who seems a little bit more in control, but sometimes bends to whims that I wouldn't bend to.
Now, you said herself. Do you think that Biden is actually a woman?
No, I'm saying Kamala, who ran against him. I'm saying the
still
latest
thinking
one.
Biden.
No, Kamala.
Yeah, I missed it there.
Yes. So
I almost forgot she existed. Like she was on the scene
Can I
big
tell
time.
you something? That is another thing that raised my red flag of like, why would they put her against him? She's going to lose. That's the first thing I said was like, I have my favorite football team, but I at least want it to be a good game. Like that was not ever, she never stood a chance. They had to know that. Why, when they persecuted him so much for his stance on freedom, why now is everyone so easily bending over? I'm not saying it's completely corrupt. I'm saying I have questions.
Me too. Yeah. Because you got to like for Zuckerberg and all these other, they were hardcore leftists. There's no way around it. They weren't afraid of Trump the first time he was president, but now everybody's saying, oh, they're afraid because he's going to be president. It's like, well, he already was. And they went after him unlike anything I've ever seen, which actually made me, that's why I gave him a pass, Trump, on so many things, because the way I saw them go after him for 4 years, you know, we could go on and on with all the things that they did to him, which made it hard for him to get things done. But yeah, there's questions.
Yes.
Yeah. So that being said, what do I have next for you? With the Hollywood thing, what are some actors and actresses that through this whole process that you've come to really trust? And I'll tell you why I asked the question. You were on with a Turning Point correspondent, or maybe it was Blaze. It was a big interview. I think it was at an event, and they said to you how much of Hollywood, what percentage?
Oh, Breitbart.
Actually, behind the scenes, behind closed doors, are Trump supporters or are against vaccines. Those things. And you said, a large amount.
Oh, so you mean which ones are hypocritical, not which ones do I trust?
No, I'm saying, so you admitted that even if some can be hypocritical, I'm sure there's some really good ones too. So
yes.
And maybe your answer is none. I don't know.
Right.
But what I'm asking you is, who are some ones out there that maybe took the stance that you have taken? And I know there's not.
Rob Schneider.
Okay. Yeah.
Rob Schneider. Someone has said to me many times, you were like the first in Hollywood to stand up, but I wasn't. Rob Schneider has always stood. And I had been talking with him on the phone and confiding in him about my kids when this whole mess in California was going down, taking exemptions away from children. And he had said, just like, lay low, now's not the time to talk. They'll take everything. And when I spoke at the school board meeting, my phone rang and it was Rob. And he was like, you just couldn't keep your mouth shut, could you? And I was like, no, I couldn't. So Rob Schneider is a man to be trusted.
That's cool.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
The difference I see in you and many of the others are you were doing it when there was really something to lose.
Yeah, I lost it all.
Yeah.
I lost it all. So for Zuckerberg to say I was yelled at, I lost my entire income. I lost my friends. I lost my home that I had built for 30 years. Everything that I had built in California. My children lost their friends. There are Good Luck Charlie reunions going on right and left that I'm not invited to.
And you were the star of that show for the most part,
I would say
right?
for the most part.
Yeah.
I mean,
you're not getting an invite.
No.
That's crazy.
No invite. I've been, one person on the show has completely posted pictures of Good Luck Charlie where I've been trimmed out and unfollowed and everyone tagged but me. And here's the thing. It's not that they despise me, because when I privately texted this person, he was like, oh, sorry, I missed your text. How's it going? He was super friendly. And I was like, it's not going well considering you did this. I guess the difference between that person and myself is like, they know me. They know my heart. They've known me for years. So has Disney Channel. This is where I'm a little bit upset with the people there. They know who I am. They just don't want the heat that came on me to come on them. So it's a bit of a cowardice stance.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm the kind of person that if they had drug one of them through the mud like they did me, I would stand up and say, Like, I know this person, agree or disagree, but we know her heart. Not unlike the show, what was the Candace Cameron Bure show that was the family?
Full House?
Full House, yes. You know, when the mom on that show, Lori Loughlin, was, you know, put in prison for a federal crime that was committed of that kind of collegiate. Do you remember that? There was this college sports
I think
scam.
she was helping. It was either cheating on aptitude tests or a quid pro quo, like you do this, we'll do this, and get your kid in,
and
when they didn't deserve it, right?
Yeah, and paying to get a child's way in, you know. And when they asked their cast, the media, what they thought about this scandal, their cast said, we know her heart. We know her. We love her. People make mistakes. We don't know what's going on with this situation.
Yeah.
But we know her. My cast did not do that.
Because she was committing a forgivable sin.
Yeah, but me speaking out saying vaccines may not be safe. And more importantly, what I said was that a school board does not have the right to even be making a decision on whether your child should be able to breathe air freely or not. It's completely against the Constitution and your freedoms as a United States citizens. It's completely against one of your inalienable God-given rights. That's the mockery of it. That's the clown show, is that they actually thought that they had the right to be making that decision. Once I said that, it was like I was a pariah to society.
And you being unafraid to speak truth on controversial topics, that's an ongoing thing. And I'm sure that has a residual effect with, you know, the reunions and things like that that you could be invited to. Most recently, you were at the Turning Point America Fest, and you had some pretty heated words about medical freedom and, you know, who has a right to control, you know, your body in terms of vaccines. And you said, it's not Tony Fauci, it's not all these other people. And then you got a big reaction when you said, it's definitely not Mike Johnson, Speaker Johnson.
Yeah.
You got a big reaction for that. Why did you go there?
Because that bill that was proposed, that was 1,500 pages.
Something no one could read in their right mind.
Right. There was a lot of authoritarian top-down control when it comes to pandemics. There was a lot about being able to mandate vaccines, about mandating medical procedures, about taking away your freedoms.
So basically the same thing all over again?
It was the same thing all over again. And so I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that ever. Like, period. End of sentence.
Yeah.
I don't care if you masquerade as, you know, as Donald Trump. There is no political person, there's no person in the world that is going to make me do that. I'm for we the people having freedoms. I don't know why people don't understand that. I'm on team we the people.
Yeah. And well, Mike Johnson continues to do these kind of rhino, you know, bought and paid for moves over and over. People may not understand, and I won't get into it now, the ins and outs of this, but he just removed Thomas Massey, one of the only people that are not taking money from AIPAC.
The only person who literally stands for freedom and doesn't have, you know, they say celebrities have handlers.
Right.
Yeah. They're political handlers.
Yeah.
He's the only one who doesn't have a political handler who actually goes on what his constituents wants and what he knows to be morally sound, good, and right.
And he has created huge division just by doing that.
Yeah.
So Mike Johnson removes him, but, you know, and then Mike Johnson was just kind of what would you call it? He was re-upped again for his speakership or whatever.
Yes.
So he got it. Trump, you know, came to his aid and said all about it. He's a great freedom-loving, you know, guy and all this stuff. What do you think about that?
It's so confusing, isn't it all? It's just a big mind trick, all of it. It's one day it's this, one day it's that. We're bombarded with mixed messages constantly.
Yeah.
How do we find the truth? That's one of the things that I had said in that Breitbart interview is like, we have to be able to tell our stories and we have to be able to speak opposition and allow for, opposing voices in order to be held accountable to the truth. You have to say your opinion and then time will tell if that is true or not. So the only way that I get through all these confusing times is I sit there and I go, okay, well, I don't have enough information yet to make a sound judgment call on this. And I sit and I don't post about it.
Yeah.
I didn't post a black square, not because I wasn't horrified at watching George Floyd die on the streets. Nobody wants to watch that. But because I didn't know this organization, trust this organization, and know what politically they had in mind, right? And then you see, oh, it's just another scam to funnel money. It's not actually going to, the money isn't going to communities that need it.
Oh, yeah.
It's circumventing them. It's just a legal form of laundering money.
If any place should have gotten better due to the billions of dollars that BLM Incorporated, brought in, it would have been Minneapolis. And it's in worse shape than it's ever been.
Yeah.
For the black community, by the way.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, and so see, that's not, to me, that's not helpful. To me, that's just...
I think that's wise. If you don't have enough information, don't go online. That's how people get themselves in trouble.
Because actors are people who, by default, most of them have gotten into acting because they want to be loved. They want to be adored. There's something missing in that, and they need that. So that's why a lot of them are the first to virtue signal. It's because they're the first to go, like me, see me. I'm a good person.
Yeah.
And I'm more inclined to go, I don't care what you think about me. I'm going to wait until I have enough information to make what I think is a sound decision based on the information I've been given.
Yeah. When you say that, I picture Ashton Kutcher, like the day after the George Floyd's death and all that. Like he posted a video, a selfie video of himself in his house crying, talking about how racist America is to his children. I mean, and to me, I immediately saw this is a virtue signal. This guy wants to be congratulated so badly for his stance on this so quickly. That's why he's doing this.
Right.
It just seemed very contrived to me.
Yeah. It's gross. It's disgusting.
Well, what do you love right now? We can talk about the negative. Let's talk about the positive for a minute. As we move forward into, and before I ask that, I'll ask you this. Why be political? Outside of I understand the vaccine thing because that had a personal effect on your children, and that has to do with all of us, really. But on the other stuff, you're being invited to Turning Point, and speaking on political matters and calling out Speaker Mike Johnson. Why are you involved in that way?
Because I don't want to lose hope. I want to leave a country where my children and my children's children are free. I want them to know the life that we've had, where we at least had the illusion of freedom, right?
Right.
I don't want them to live in 15-minute cities. People think that communism is good. It's not. It's never, I'm old enough to know it's never worked. I'm old enough to remember the Berlin Wall and East and West Berlin and the differences in the two. It's never, ever worked. And the oligarch globalists think that it's going to work this time because technology is going to set it in place and strongly ferment that. But at the end of the day, it's just going to be the Hunger Games, and may the odds be in your favor.
Yeah.
I don't want my kids to grow up like that. I really am on team we the people. I'm not on a political side. I'm on our side. I want freedom for everybody, even those who disagree with me.
Yeah. The difference in you, I'm sure there's other actresses that are just as outgoing and outspoken and all of it, but they want to be politically naive so they don't have to address those things. And they want they live a happy life, and whenever something big or controversial happens, they'll just, kind of figure out which way the winds are blowing and go that way because that's easier. It's more comfortable.
Right.
You've chosen not to do that.
Yeah, I chose not to do that because my kids' lives are on the line.
You see it, so you see a direct connection, which I do as well, between what's happening in the framework of our country, politically especially, and how that is going to have long-lasting effects on the life of our kids.
Yeah, and for me in particular, it was the vaccination. If my kids get one, they'll die. Okay, what's my worst-case scenario in this lifetime? That there's a pandemic where they force or mandate a vaccine that would kill my kids. Okay, so that is a loaded gun up against the heads of my kids. I'm not playing around with that.
Mm-hmm.
So you could say that I'm brave, you could say that I'm courageous, but the truth of the matter is you've hit the point where you've scared me to a point of bravery.
Yeah.
To where I'm in a dark room of fear and the only exit is courage and to be brave and bold and speak the truth. That's my exit door.
Yeah.
I'm going to take it all day long. You're not coming for my kids. Or if you are, you're going to have to get through me to get to them.
That's good. Yeah. That's what you're called to do as a mother as well.
Absolutely. Mothers, protect your cubs. Stand up. Rise up. Brave up. And Mike Johnson, man up.
Fires in California.
Yeah.
So let's be conspiracy theorists for a minute.
Okay.
So I saw a 2020 pamphlet, the cover of it, recently, and I posted this to my stories. And it's almost like every natural disaster has something where, you've got government entities or public-private partnerships, BlackRock or others, coming in and immediately scooping up the land. And crazy enough, the movie Twisters that just came out, it wasn't a remake, it was more of a sequel of the old Twister. Did you see that?
I haven't seen it because when everybody was talking about it, I thought they were talking about the remake. Yeah. That's how out of the loop I've been. Oh my gosh.
So it was actually a really, really good movie. It didn't have any of the woke stuff. Fun to watch, but one of the biggest subplots in the film was a company who was a government, kind of a public-private, World Economic Forum style company, is coming in, and they were doing this dirty deal where they had the technology at the point now where they knew when a tornado was going to come in. So they would go into those towns and say, hey, it's coming. We know it's coming. You're going to have to leave your home. You're going to have to leave your land. We're at least going to give you a fair price for that before it happens. They also had the technology to kill the tornado. And they were going out of their way not to do it. They wanted to do just enough damage so that you couldn't pin it down on the government before they, got rid of the tornado with Dorothy or whatever they call it. But they were actually laying out like, this is how this happens. And we saw Hawaii. We saw the destruction of hundreds of food processing plants for the last couple of years, train wrecks, all these things that this is very abnormal. Then you've got this raging fire in California. You've got a 2020 pamphlet saying this is going to be a future smart city. Yeah. And Gavin Newsom's going to do an interview saying we're about to build LA 2.0.
He's happy. He's proud.
It's unbelievable.
Here's what I understand that people may not be able to get behind geoengineering, even though the stripes are all over the sky and it's been proven and they've been doing it since the 1940s.
Until Tennessee. Did you notice how clear our skies are since Tennessee outlawed it?
No, it's not. They still do it all over Tennessee.
I've not seen as much.
I've called it out big time.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've not maybe been looking up as much.
Billy may have blocked me on Instagram from calling him out. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, because it's not supposed to do it. But I don't think that he can control it on a state level, but he can't control it on a federal level. So to to just back him up a little bit, I think it's because on a federal level, he cannot control that.
Yeah. Well, no, I agree with you. There's geoengineering going on.
There is geoengineering going on, and trying to convince someone of that is a difficult, they call me a conspiracy theorist and all that stuff. But I don't think that I think that Twister is just a new way of them saying it. If you go back to The Truman Show, which is one of my favorite movies, you can see that they control the weather. There's even a line in The Truman Show where he says, people will believe the reality that they're presented.
Yes.
It's not until you don't have to have all the answers. Again, I want to emphasize, you just need to start asking questions. Why does this seem that way? Why is that way? That doesn't make sense. A lot of it is that ain't right.
Yeah.
So I just want to go on record as saying this. Fires don't start themselves. There is no fire season. Fire is not a weather. It's not a weather. It's not a hurricane. It's not rain. It is caused by man. One caveat: lightning can strike a tree. Correct.
And there have been fires throughout history that have happened that way.
Yeah.
But what are you saying is different than that?
I'm saying the fires in Canada, the fires in Los Angeles, 20 different fires don't pop up in different areas of one area and then suddenly it's fire season. Okay? It's either severe neglect. Mm-hmm. And then I ask the question, are they that dumb? Are they that dumb?
You're asking the same question Mel Gibson did on Fox News the other night.
Am I? Okay, well, are they that stupid?
Yeah.
Or is there something more nefarious at play and they play dumb?
Yes.
I
would agree with that.
So it's time for people to wake up and realize that, we could say, your elections have consequences, but did they elect Gavin Newsom? Was he installed?
Do you see a connection with the geoengineering and the smart cities specifically? So these things are happening in these places. The government comes in and scoops up the land, or insurance companies, and the landscape of the economics of that area and the control is changed, right?
Yes.
Then you've got Elon Musk, who's starting the whole the X digital currency, and he's using AI to create, I believe, a social credit score on the largest social media network probably in the world right now. Mm-hmm. There's all these kind of things coming together. You may not be, the expert on smart cities, but do you kind of see this converging of things happening in the way I just described it?
Yes.
Okay. What is a smart city from what you've learned about it? Say LA, they turn it into a smart city.
Okay, so it's like a 15-minute city. It's where you kind of are in your district. Let's say they've shown literature on it to where like this one tall building with green space around it, and you're not allowed to go out past a certain parameter.
Or cost you credits,
or
right?
you get a credit, like your credits are taken away from you. And then you can't eat because you don't have enough credits to buy food. And there's a gym on one floor, your work on another floor. Everything is within 15 minutes of your existence of your little home.
It's like an adult daycare almost.
Yeah.
Right.
It's really, that's what...
Isn't the surveillance a huge part of this as well?
It's a huge part of it. AI surveillance is a huge part of it. But at the end of the day, that's how it's being billed. It's so convenient, so amazing, so great. You'll be so happy. I get very nervous and suspicious when someone tells me that a plan that they have is going to make me so happy.
Yeah. Well, you'll own nothing and be happy.
You'll own nothing and you'll be happy about it. Let me just decode that for you. They're going to take your stuff. They're going to take
You'll
your
rent
stuff.
everything from them.
You'll rent everything from the government.
There's an Agenda 2030 and an Agenda 2050. By
Yes.
Agenda 2030 is they want the government to own 30% of basically all things, not just land. 2050, it's supposed to be 50%. Do you see, Leigh, like any way off this train?
Yes. Do not comply. Don't do it. Go your own way. Live your own life. Start using cash. Like, use cash. Pull it out of your wallet.
Is there a chance they'll remove that as valid currency?
100%.
Okay. Well, then you can't use cash.
No, but if we don't make the statement now,
Okay.
like, don't comply to the digital currency. Like, start using cash. Slow it down, at least. Slow this process down.
Yeah.
I mean, we already, to a certain degree, use it, right? People use Zelle or Venmo. I mean, that's digital currency, right? But I think that if you start shopping locally, get to know your farmers, stop ordering everything from Amazon, right? We got to start putting the money back in us, the people, and make our own way and separate from this matrix, this society, this World Economic Forum, this global agenda. Don't comply.
Do you do that, Leigh? Do you have like local farmers and different?
Yes, I do.
I need to talk to you about that.
I have a place where I get my beef, a place where I get my milk, a place where I get my eggs. I have a place for all the things.
That's good.
And it's not Whole Foods.
And that's supporting your local
That's right.
producers as well.
That's right. And guess what? When Whole Foods is out of everything, my farmer still has
There you go.
food for me.
Yeah, that's good. And it creates relationships.
It does. And I think we have a choice now to kind of get back to the old way of how we lived, learn how to garden, things that we've not been taught for so long that have just kind of disappeared on how to sustain ourselves. And we got to put like existing back in our own hands and governance back in our own hands and decisions back in our own hands and skill sets and take them out of the hands of the government. That truly is the definition. People are like, oh, she's so conservative. Do you know what that means, like politically? It means that the liberal progressive wants bigger government control of their lives. I'm out here hung on a limb fighting for your freedom to make your own decisions for yourself and your family. Right? I want less government. Don't tell me what to do. I will decide what I want to do.
That's been it's funny you say that. There's people that think that I'm really into politics or that I really must love like government.
Yeah, it's
And I'll
what?
say, are you just because I'm speaking out against something or maybe for something that involves political things does not mean I'm more like the founding fathers. I want a small government.
Yes.
And I want local control. And I think that's kind of the key is the smart city thing is all about centralized control where there's like this node in the matrix
Yes.
that, branches out to a few of these major cities, which branches out to some smaller smart cities.
Yes.
And everybody's got their digital credit score. Which
Which mine will suck. I won't have any credits. And if you loan me some of your credits, you'll be penalized too. And both of us will be starving for a week.
your local farmer may not have many credits either, but he's got a cow, right?
Exactly. Maybe I'll finally hit my goal weight. That would be the only plus.
Hopefully not that way.
I'm 2 credits away from hitting my goal weight.
Well, speaking of not complying, so First Amendment's a big deal to you, right?
Yes.
Okay, big deal to me as well. It's probably the most important aspect of what I hope that we're fighting for, what I hope we retain is freedom of speech.
Yes.
All right. You've experienced, huge pushback for you speaking your truth.
Yes.
On several issues.
No, I'm not speaking my truth. I was speaking the truth.
The truth. Yeah, that's a much better way to say it.
Yeah, I was speaking the truth. This happened, and this is what I'm not going to do, and this is what I am going to do. And here we are. Truth.
I'm going to go back to the First Amendment thing. I want to ask you one question first about, because there is a new wave coming in with Trump and with, his new administration and all this. What within the first 100 days, the things that he can accomplish? Okay, an example might be just release the January 6 prisoners, something like that. What are some things that you've thought about that you would like to see him do that he has the power to do within 100 days?
I would like the Constitution to be relevant again. Make America's Constitution relevant again.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd like to have that happen so it's enforced. Like we have a document that guarantees our freedoms. Just like everybody went willy-nilly and nobody was held accountable to it all of a sudden. It's like we just became China.
Yeah.
And for a second. And hopefully we go back to that. So I want our freedoms protected. I would like the Act of 1986 to be completely removed.
Explain that.
So the Act of 1986 was when vaccine manufacturers were killing so many kids with their products that they went to Ronald Reagan and said, we're either going to have to shut down our vaccine program or because we can't afford to pay off all these kids that we're killing. And so he passed the Act of 1986, which completely protects your doctor or the pharmaceutical agent. So it's the only medical product that you cannot sue for harm for. And the way that they got around this is instead of calling it a medical product, they call it a biologic. So they change the name, and therefore, if you die from it, oh well.
Yeah, they're not liable.
No.
Right. It's wild.
It's insane.
Yeah.
And I'm the crazy person for assuming that the most corrupt industry in the history of the world, who has been sued numerous times and lost on medications for killing people, I'm a crazy person for questioning their reasons for making vaccines, that they may be corrupt. It's like, what?
It's funny because it was Reagan that did it. And there's so many conservatives that would have no idea. And I've heard that before, that Reagan signed that, whatever you call it, that protected them and gave them immunity and all that stuff. And I bet that wasn't even covered back then, with the 3 news channels people were watching in 86 and nobody, but it just goes to show like those little things that happen behind the scenes can have massive ramifications through the decades.
Ruth Bader Ginsburg was actually against that and said, this is going to cause a whole litany of problems. So how's that?
That's a shocker. There you go.
How's that? Look at there.
Aligning with
See, I align with who aligns with what is free for us, not what political party you're affiliated with.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, to bring it to, anything else on that, the first 100 days? Because I understand what you're saying. Make the Constitution valid and relevant again. Let's start sticking to that. I brought up the January 6th thing.
I think we should pull out of the World Health Organization and give Tedros the big finger.
Didn't Trump do that the first time?
Yep, let's do it again.
Yeah, all about it.
Yeah, I would like to see, just in his presidency, I want to see you do what you say you're going to do. Let's pull the drain on the swamp. Let us see it. Let us see everything that you know.
Yeah.
Why do they get to keep things private for us? What did happen on 9/11? I want to know.
Yeah. I think that gets into territory that shakes the very foundations of...
Let's shake it. Yeah. Foundation's been blown apart anyway.
Yeah.
Let's shake it.
I agree with you, but I'm saying that's why they may not do it, or I think they would give us a fake, here's the report. Like, who knows? You know what I'm saying?
I'm tired of them redacting things. I want to know. Like, if you have the balls to stand on a stage and say, as he did in the debate, if I were president, you'd be in jail, Hillary Clinton. All right, well, what do you have on her to put her in jail? And I want to see what you have on her. Okay, then put her in jail.
Exactly. Or was that just a talking point?
Or were you just shooting off from the mouth? Right. Like, what is it?
Build a wall, have Mexico pay for it. All that stuff. Yeah, I'd like to see some of it. My thought on releasing like files, whether it's JFK or 9/11, the JFK specifically, Trump spoke to Judge Andrew Napolitano. And Andrew Napolitano said, hey, you said you're going to release this. Will you release it? Do you know about this conversation?
No, I don't.
I have every reason to believe he's being honest on his show, but Napolitano says Trump told him, Judge, if you saw what I saw, you wouldn't release it either. Now, this was a couple of years ago that he said that.
On Hillary Clinton?
No, on JFK and on 9/11. And so my thought is, if it's this dangerous, and Kash Patel says he's going to release this stuff, if they release something and all it does is slightly change the mainstream narrative, but basically you land in the same place. 9/11 was an Al-Qaeda operation from start to finish pretty much. And we needed the war on terror for 20 years to, if it's just, okay, there's a couple people involved we didn't know before, but everybody's like, who's that guy?
Then
it's
they're
fake.
hiding it. Yeah,
because you don't keep something under wraps that's top secret that Trump says, if you saw what I saw, you wouldn't release it either.
No.
Well, it's got to be something that's pretty earth shaking.
Yeah.
And I think it's, with JFK, Tucker Carlson, before he got let go from Fox News, he started really, digging in to 9/11 specifically and to JFK specifically. And he had a former CIA operative on a show that said, yeah, the CIA was involved. Here you go.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So I hope we can see more honesty and more transparency. But kind of like you said with COVID and the vaccine, I have my doubts.
Right.
So, well, on to the First Amendment. This is something that's, kind of near and dear to my heart, and I want to hear your thoughts on it. So during COVID or during BLM or with the LGBTQ mafia stuff, those were 3 issues you could not speak out against online, or you'd be canceled or lose your job,
right,
or whatever. And I know you said you don't.
And the greatest of these is the vaccine. That is the one biggie you cannot talk about.
Right. Or you will not enter the kingdom of
you will not enter the kingdom of society.
Yeah.
Right. So I've noticed Riley Gaines, who she's such a courageous, beautiful person. And I'm just champion her and support everything that she's done for saying, look, you're not standing up for women's rights when you allow men into their sports to take over. For her to her story is just shocking that there was a man naked in fully intact in my dressing room, that was holding my medal that, that could have been mine or could have been another girl's medal. It's insane to think about. But people can kind of get behind that of it was controversial and she took heat for sure. But I'm telling you.
She came out on top of that deal.
She came out on top.
Yeah, they're grooming her for a Fox News anchor. I totally see this.
Yeah. But you speak on vaccines, and it's like, no, you're dead to the world.
Let me ask you a deeper question on her story. She's been on my show. I'm like you. I've got a lot of respect for her. At the same time, and I asked her this question. I was like, do you still think you should have jumped in the pool? And she's like, that's the one thing, because it lent credibility to this. And this isn't my alma mater. Right. This is Georgia Tech, where they held that event. So I blame, yes, the NCAA and all of the different groups that would have been in charge. I blame Georgia Tech. I also blame the dads that were there that said, I'm going to allow my daughter to go in that locker room with a grown man naked and jump in a pool with him and pretend that this is a real event.
How old was Riley at that time?
Probably, college, senior, 21?
Yeah, you're asking a lot of a 21-year-old.
Of course, yeah.
That's a lot to ask of a kid.
What would you do if you were the parent?
Oh, gosh, I go nuts. You don't want to know what I would do.
I do.
Oh, my word.
Think about that. You go to this event knowing this is going to happen, and it's your daughter.
The problem is this, and it's a good problem to have, is at the core, people are better than we think. They've got a soft heart. So the problem is this, it's not just a fear that of being persecuted, that is there also, but it's also this who am I to say, maybe this person feels differently, it's that softness that people are taught to have until they realize it's really crossing a boundary and it's making an agenda push forward that doesn't need to, it's a Marxist agenda. It's really a cultural revolution where we pit each other against one another. So if I were a parent, would I, look, I like to not say what I would do if I wasn't there. The truth of the matter is, if I'm being honest, I don't know what I would do because I wasn't in that situation. I'm the mother of 2 boys,
Yeah.
I know what I would do in the vaccine situation because it's what I did. Yeah.
Well, and to be fair, too, the vaccine, you've got some time with the vaccine to look into it, to figure it out. This probably happened pretty quickly. And
it was quick. It was... Yeah. My heart goes out to everyone who now is going, because there is afterthought. There's the aftershock of what just happened? What did I go through? Hey, that didn't feel right at the time, but a lot of people carry this. Well, that sure didn't feel right, but who am I to speak out? Who am I to do this? Right?
But that's your call for people is if not you, who?
If not you, who? You're a child of God. You have the right to speak.
Yeah.
The freedom is, we all have it.
Yeah.
Use it.
A lot of institutions we've had to drop as well. You know, for me, like Georgia Tech, as much as I had great memories playing baseball there and all that, knowing that they sanctioned that event, knowing that last year they gave Anthony Fauci an honorary degree.
Oh my gosh.
And knowing that they have DARPA come in, black money government ops come in and talk about nanotechnology and vaccines and all that at Georgia Tech, I can no longer support them.
No.
It's a tough thing. Outside of Disney and some of the Hollywood stuff, has there been other institutions that you've just had to say goodbye to that you just can't support? There's probably 100 of them.
That probably is. The list is long.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't even look at food the same. Like, let's talk about that. Like, I don't even look at food the same. Things are so corrupt. I don't watch movies the same. Like I said, I didn't even know about the movie Twister. My view on Hollywood is totally different. I'll walk through the living room with my kids watching Avengers and be like, huh, I see what you did there. You know, my kid's like, Mom, not everything is saying that, but it's exactly saying that.
Right. Yeah. That's been there's been a shift where all of these amenities and these things that came easy. I mean, even now when I get something because of convenience on Amazon, I'm kind of like, Jeff Bezos owns this, and
I know.
he used COVID fear with the Washington Post that he also owns to drive people to buy stuff on Amazon while pushing the vaccine. You know, that's a tough thing. So to detach, it's a slow process.
It's a slow process. Look, you can't. It's hard. Like, you can't do it all at once. You know. It's like they were like, don't touch cash. They wanted you to be afraid of using cash. I wonder why they did that, you know? I would recommend everybody try to get a hold of the Rockefeller manuscript called Lockstep. It brings a lot of clarity.
That's the older one from like the early 2000s?
Yeah, so I had got my hands on that at the beginning of the pandemic and was like, what?
Yeah.
That is why I was very anti-mask, is because I knew that once they locked that step in, then the next one would be to mandate vaccines.
And the fact that they called it Lockstep, and it was amazing how media, social media, movies, celebrities, sportscasters, the medical industry, politicians all locked arms
That's right.
on one day. And they said, this is our story.
Yeah.
And if you sign the Great Barrington Declaration as a doctor and speak against this, you lose your credibility.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
It was unbelievable how they stripped everyone of their freedoms, of their rights. Experts.
Yeah.
The government became your doctor. They can't run the DMV and the post office properly. They became your doctor. What?
And took away your bodily autonomy.
Took away your bodily autonomy. I mean, I'll never forget going to a store and there was a spot on the floor that said stand here. And my kids stood on it. I looked at him and I said, get your butt off that circle. You can stand anywhere but here. Anywhere but here. I remember the grocery stores had an arrow going this way. I'd be going up the down staircase. Like, I'm going in the opposite direction. I'm just not doing that.
Yeah.
It's all a big joke to get you to comply. It's not for your safety. There were friends that we had in California the day that we left that were crying in our driveway. We'd literally been in our homes for 58 days. So if the virus was in fact real, no one's been out to catch anything, right? You've been in your home, and they come to the back outside area with masks on. And I was like, I was so done at that point because I could see it all, right? And I was like, are you going to hug me or not? Or are you just going to like end, like a 15-year friendship, like this? Mm-hmm. Because what you've been sequestered in your house, I've been in mine. What do we have? Okay, but you can't hug me. And they're like, she looked at her husband with a mask on and said, are you okay if I hug her goodbye? And I was like, oh.
Unbelievable. Yeah.
And that's the last I heard from them because, I spoke up for truth and freedom. And so, the people that were the guardians of my children now, no Christmas card, no birthday cards, no well wishes. Now, California's burning down. Of course, I'm going to text and say, hey, I'm praying for you guys. Mm-hmm. I hope that you are safe. Like, I don't get joy out of watching California burn. This is heartbreaking.
Yeah.
But fires don't start themselves. And I hate to go back to the fires. They don't start themselves. Somebody is lighting those fires. Okay, yeah, a strike of lightning could happen. Yeah, you mismanage enough of the brush, you mismanage enough of the electricity, but it doesn't happen. What are the odds of that happening all over different places of LA? All I got to say is Arizona's hotter and windier than California, and they're not burning down to the ground.
Well, people would say that the sparks that are coming off the fire are going and lighting new ones.
You've got to know the topography of Los Angeles to know that that's impossible.
There's hills, right?
Yeah, but this hill that's way over here by the ocean, let me stress, by a gigantic body of water.
Yeah.
There. And then the next one's over here. You tell me, what are the odds that one ember just like blew, didn't hit this on fire,
Sure.
but then hit
Yeah.
this? Like,
Well, to me, the level of mismanagement, the lack of cleanup, the whole the wonderful company where that one family basically owns
Owns
the
all the
water,
water.
all that stuff. You combine all that, and then you pay off a couple of illegal immigrants or whatever to go start some fires on your behalf, and they could say, well, it wasn't the government that did it.
right.
So there's any number of things that could have happened there. So the free speech thing, you've faced it. I faced it not as hardcore as you did during the COVID era and BLM and LGBTQ, but I stood up and I felt the pain of it. I've never felt the pain as I've personally felt this year, questioning the war with Israel and Gaza. And the biggest questions I have are safe ones to ask. It's
Yeah.
questions like, well, we know that, there's been all kinds of reports in Israel, and you may not be aware of this, from well-known, Haaretz and the Times of Israel and others, saying that the secret services, Mossad and Shin Bet, which are the two main, there's kind of like our CIA over there, they had reports knowing that Hamas was planning to do this attack. So I'm like, okay, if they knew, and then Egypt warned them. And I've got videos of people that were in the tower saying we were telling them this was coming, and they shut us down, the communications professionals. So all of that, and then the attack happens. They blow through multiple places in the gate. They get in, and in a country that takes a helicopter 15 minutes to fly anywhere, there's no air support for 7-8 hours. So I've been asking those questions, and it's led me to myself. I'm not speaking for you. It's led me to believe, I understand that they have the Greater Israel Project. They want more land. Gaza and West Bank have to be a part of that. Syria is a part of that. Lebanon's a part of that. Parts of Iran, to get what they really want. This goes, now I know this isn't your area of expertise, but there's lots of people saying what I'm saying who are on the right wing, not leftists who are, with their flags, pro-Palestine flags on college campuses. People like myself that are just like, I just want the truth, and I see something here that doesn't look right. And when you're told you can't ask those questions, or you're pro-terrorist, which is what I see almost all of our right-wing politicians doing. They want to shut down that conversation. They've introduced a bill, H.R. 6090, where they allow a United Nations NGO to determine what is considered anti-Semitic or not. And so it's not even a government agency that makes that decision.
Yeah.
And, Kristi Noem's behind it, and almost every right-wing politician will be behind it. But, man, I have had huge pushback on me over that.
Yeah.
So you talked about two wings of the same bird. So on the one side, I see a shutting down of free speech about all these woke issues. On the other side, it's this one issue. And it's like, if you talk about that, you're the worst of the worst. And I just wanted to get like your take on that issue, because we've talked a little bit about it behind the scenes.
So I would love to give you my take. I want to start with this. Took my kids to Universal, because I was like, I'm going to stick it to Disney. They stuck it to me. I'm going to Universal. I've since been back to Disney World, so the stick it didn't work. But I went to Universal. Family memories won out. Sorry. I go to Disney World.
It's a big deal.
It is a big deal. So we went to Universal, and there was a Starbucks, and being gluten-free, and there's only a few things that I can, other than water, eat at Universal.
Okay, right.
One of them is an Americano coffee. So I went to Starbucks, and they're the sweetest kids. I call them kids. They were my kids that I helped raise, that watched my show, that worked there. And they wanted a picture. And so I took a picture with them and I posted it. They're so sweet. And immediately in my feed, I was very surprised. It was like, she's pro-Israel. She hates Palestine. She wants Palestinian kids to die. And I was like, or I wanted a coffee,
Now, connect those dots. Why would they say that? Do we know?
There was something that went on with Starbucks. I don't know. I later learned that there was something with Starbucks supporting Israel or something. I don't know. I don't even know.
Yeah.
Truthfully, at the time, I just wanted a coffee. That was it. But I just want to clear the record on where I stand with that. I think I'm pretty obvious on where I stand with vaccines. I don't want you to ever force a medical product on anybody. Once you give up your bodily autonomy, it is over. It's over. The human race is gone.
Right.
Okay. But where I stand on Israel, as much as I know, being someone who's very uneducated, is that I am on team nobody blow anybody up. I don't like war. I feel like it's a giant money laundering scheme by people that are in power and in control. We do not benefit from it. Our sons, and now apparently our daughters, go to die for
other countries'
rich
wars.
people to get richer.
Yeah.
And I don't like that.
I've heard it said recently on that point that if you want to go into the multiple hundreds of billions of dollars, get involved with vaccines. If you want to get into the trillions of dollars, get involved with the war complex.
Yeah. But I also know a slogan, a business slogan when I've heard it: vaccine safe and effective. This, always support Israel. Do I support the people Israel? Oh, yeah. Do I support people of everywhere? Yes. I'm on team we the people. It's this small global elite that I'm anti.
Mm-hmm.
And because they try to hold a lot of power over us. And so, yeah, I think that we should be able to question. That's not saying that the people of Israel are bad, but I do have some questions for their government. Our America, we the people, are not bad, but our government is corrupt AF. You know what I'm saying? I just learned what that meant.
Yeah, right.
I did.
Really?
I was like, why do people put AF by things? I asked my kids, and they're like, Mom. I also was like, what is the cross with a cap? No cap. Do you know what no cap is?
Cross? No, I don't know.
It means
that one.
facts, man.
Really?
You got to get with the lingo. No cap.
No cap. I didn't know. I'm slow on that one. You were slow on the AF.
Yeah, yeah. So
well, as it applies to the before I ask you back again about First Amendment issues on that.
Mm-hmm.
You said you're on team don't blow anybody up.
Yeah.
There's been I forget the left-wing governor that recently signed a bomb, but then you got Nikki Haley that signed a bomb.
See, I don't understand that.
Finish them, heart exclamation point, finish them.
I don't understand that. That is cruelty.
Well, let me ask you, so she would say, if she was sitting here, she'd be, how dare you?
Right,
I was
okay.
talking about Hamas terrorists. And it's like, don't you know that
But there's people that get aimed at that are going to be exploded in that besides Hamas terrorists.
Well, over 50,000 at this point.
Children.
Yeah.
I don't like that. Am I a bad person because I don't like that? No, I don't like any children to be blown to smithereens.
What do you think
I don't want
about-
anybody to be kidnapped, raped, trafficked, none of it. I don't like pedophiles. I don't like anybody who hurts children. I don't want it.
What I want is for Christians to be able to ask questions rather than just say, we must bless Israel because our religion, our Christian faith tells us to, which for me, that's a very different thing than the modern state of Israel. But when you've got her signing bombs saying, finish them with a heart, and no Christians in the community really know what the death rates, the ratio's unbelievable, honestly. And then they named their AI bombing program the gospel. So to me, it's like there's too many things that for us as Christians who are supposed to seek the truth and weigh out all things as Bereans, why can we not talk about this issue? And the right wing is basically saying, don't question us on this issue.
Right.
We must support.
So I'm always suspicious when people don't allow me to ask questions. Why don't you want me to ask question becomes the next question that I ask, right? But Kristi Noem doing that.
It wasn't Noam. To be fair, it was Nikki Haley.
Nikki Haley.
Now
sorry.
Noam would probably do it too, but it's Nikki Haley.
So Nikki Haley. Well, everybody knows she's a piece of work. So Nikki Haley doing that is no different than someone that's uber to the left saying, I'm going to kill my baby in the 9th month and there's nothing you can do about it. It's just, oh, wow. We've lost all sense of reason in humanity at this point. Yeah, it's really scary.
Do you think there's a veneer that if you're going to look at all this, I mentioned the word Kabuki theater, where it's like this overplay drama that's going on between the right and the left to get everybody to believe in the show, or behind the scenes, behind closed doors, the deals are being done when nobody's looking. Do you think there's a lot of that going on with some of the woke stuff? Like, because the woke stuff and the transgender, I know it's real and I know we need to fight it, but it's like, this is something that will really, let's make one side of the aisle look insane on this issue and like make MSNBC like the purveyors of this. And then so on the other hand, you've got people that are fighting it, but this is what everybody's talking about.
Wouldn't that be the perfect way to do it?
So that these geopolitical things, and Trump's talking about Greenland and Canada and Mexico.
Wouldn't that be the perfect way to bring on a one world order?
It very much would be.
So in order to build something back better, to bring on a one world order, you have to break and completely dismantle and destroy and burn down what's there, right?
That's right.
So yeah, that's the big fear, right? That's the big, oh crap. The big oh crap is we've gone so insane over here. Oh, we're here to save the day. And then they have the same plan in place that the other side had in place. Again, that's the two wings of the same bird. And I'm just trying to stay out of that cage that they're trying to shove us into. So do I hope that that's not the case? Do I hope that more people will wake up? Yeah, I really do. Do I hope that there's a reprieve for the United States of America? Yeah, I sure do. But is it awfully suspicious that way really is something I'm not interested in going down that way?
Isn't the key for the common person not only not complying, because right now, like smart cities, I do not comply. Well, you don't really have the option right now yet. You can start to stand against certain things and certain bills that are being passed. But I think it's right now we're in the phase of get the knowledge out there, allow people to know that, even if you voted for Trump and love Trump, that he still calls himself the father of the vaccine, and he still talks highly of smart cities, which is really weird. Allow people to understand that, to begin to ask the questions so they know how to push back when it comes. I say all that to say this. Turning Point, in my opinion, has every reason to be exposing that. Now, I voted for Trump, and I want to praise the good he's done, and I hope he does a great job.
Yeah.
But did they at all talk about the smarts when you were at the AmeriFest? Was there any speakers that talked about, hey, we got to stay on him about these certain things because he doesn't seem opposed to it, and we are? I mean, because that is a perfect megaphone at an event like that to make it clear, like Trump, we know.
Yeah, I think that, I think that there are people there that would question that. It wasn't the time to do it, actually. This was the time after working so hard. Charlie Kirk has worked his face off to try to help wake up kids to what is actually going on in our country.
Yep, agreed.
He is a good man, and I believe that this was a moment to just take a breath and kind of celebrate.
When was the event again?
It was December.
Okay, so right after the election.
It was right post-election.
That makes sense. Yep.
And
there has been...
he has done many podcasts on the global elite and on this very thing. And so I know his stance on that is that, the globalist agenda is bad. In fact, that's when I talked about the globalist in my speech.
Oh, I know
he
he's
posted
against
it
that.
On
my challenge to him, if he was sitting here, would be like, man, you got kudos to you on the fantastic work. And I know where he stands on globalism, and I would agree with him when he's talking in general terms. Yeah. But we have to, in my opinion, if you want people to really, his audience especially, millions and millions of people, to be aware of what could potentially be happening right now, is where is Trump linked to this, and how can we hold his feet to the fire so he knows that we know?
Yeah, again, that's one of those things that I talk about when I say time will tell. That's why all voices, all opposing side, yours, mine, opinions matter. Let's put them all out there. And then eventually we get enough information to see what is true or not. We don't have enough information yet.
Yeah.
We have hope. We have sound bites. We have promises. But we don't actually, he's not even taken office yet.
Yeah.
So, time will tell, right?
That's right.
But everybody should just be aware to keep an eye open for what's actually going on in this country.
Yeah, absolutely.
And don't fall so quickly for the narrative. Like I said, Truman Show. Watch that movie. The reality you give people is the reality they live in and believe. So
that's a great movie.
Question that reality.
Yeah. One of the things I would encourage all the audience, to try to do that I think you do very well. And I wrote you recently, I think it was a text, I really respect the fact that you are one who can light up a room. You bring joy. You bring a positive approach. People can't help, for the most part, but feel uplifted unless you're talking about vaccines.
Yeah. Even people though on my page that don't agree with me, these are my favorite comments. I think you're nuts. I don't agree with anything you say, but I just have to follow you because you're so funny. Or one guy was like, just said recently on one of my posts mocking Mark Zuckerberg, he was like, we so disagree on so many things, but so many things we actually agree on. Yeah. And my response to that was, because there's this huge group of us common sense people in the middle that agree way more than you think because they want to paint the picture using lies and propaganda to pit us against one another and divide us.
Yeah.
Right, so that we don't come together, because that's the globalist greatest nightmare, right? Is that we all come together and band together. And that's what I want to champion, all of us coming together.
And you're doing that, though, without being naive. That was the point I was going to make, is on the one hand, you're very knowledgeable about these things. but on the other hand, still uplifting. And I think a lot of people eventually take the black pill. And I've had to fight it certain days. I know you've had your days where you see what's going on. And the easiest thing to do would be just like, okay, I live in a nice county in Tennessee. It's pretty reasonable here. I just don't want to know anymore. And I'm not saying we don't need breaks from time to time, because we do. We need breaks from the news and breaks from all this stuff just to, focus on our nuclear, family and area and all that. But I just really like the fact that you can be knowledgeable yet still have a really uplifting spirit. So kudos to you on that.
Thank you.
And if you don't mind, Leigh, like close us out. Look, what would be your parting, thoughts about, anything we talked about today or something else that you'd like to share?
I just say gratitude keeps you joyful. And every morning when my feet hit the ground, I have joy in my heart, and I want to make this day better than it was the last. And I just not only love my kids, there's a whole generation of kids that watched my show. And do you know what they say to me when they see me? They say, "You raised me."
Huh.
I'm not kidding you.
Yeah, I believe it.
Thousands of times I have heard, "You raised me." And I love them. And I mean, from conservative Christians to complete liberal atheists have said that to me.
Yeah.
And I love them all. And I want that generation to have a future. I don't want them to be taken over. And I will not leave this planet as someone who aided and abetted and complied into that generation being completely captured. I'm just not going to partake in that. I want to be the one that they were like, "Hey, my mom stood up for me. My mom cared, and she made a difference."
Amen. That's good. Leigh, thank you so much for coming on today. We really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
All right. Oh, I should have given you a chance to, well, you said the only thing you've got right now is a screenplay. I was going to ask people where to follow you.
Oh, you can just put it on the thing. Put my Instagram and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll put it all. That was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
Great job.
I know we were all over the place, but it's like it's so hard to have a linear conversation that's really in good sequential order when the whole world is really imploding with all of these things hitting at once.
Well, you bring a broad knowledge of a lot of things, and also the reason we were a little bit all over the place, which I think is fine, actually.
Okay.
Because whenever I go back and watch these after, and I'm like, man, it's like, no, that kind of made sense in a progression.
Okay, good.
I think that's how you'll feel. But this has been 3 years of us talking about doing an interview. So
I
there's
know.
been all these big things come up.
Yes.
And then we don't have the interview, then more big things. So
Yeah.
I think it's a product of that.
Okay, good. Yeah, we got to do another one. We'll do some more, and we'll hone in on specific topics.
That'd be wonderful.
Like we should do one show where I just tell my story, and
You really want to do that?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
That'd be awesome. I think between your large audience and then I'll probably post this on the Ex-American News channel I told you about.
Yeah.
It's got 140,000. So I kind of want to combine that audience with yours and then mine on Instagram and just like, boom, all right there and see how it does.
All right. Well, hopefully if I'm not censored anymore, but I am actually. Like I went to my hashtags so I put
On X you would be?
Not on X. On although I may even on X, freaking Elon Musk's sister was my neighbor and mother.
Really?
Yes. That's what I mean about God has put me in certain rooms.
Because you told me like your kind of private thoughts on him and
Douchebag wants to put a chip in your head.
Yeah. People don't see it at all.
No.
You know that post you said you were obsessed with that I made about how can am I taking crazy pills? Like
yes.
This guy's head of
How's
all
he
these
gonna
companies
do this?
and 12 kids, 3 all that stuff. And people hated that. Like there's a good amount of people that are like, you're on it. Yeah, something's really weird here. Or yeah, he's a total globalist.
Because it takes the hope that because they're putting their hope in other people and not in Jesus Christ. I got to be honest with you. That's why.
And like you said, it's been 4 years or even 8 years. Because even when Trump was in office, it wasn't easy because we felt like the attacks on him were an attack on the common people.
Right.
And for all of that time, people have been building up this hope. And now that Trump has these big names on board, like Elon Musk, and it's like, oh my God, this is amazing.
I know.
So for me to come along and like,
I know you want them to be the Avengers team. I know you want them to jump in and save the day. But again, my hopes and dreams of freedom are not attached to RFK Jr. They're not attached to Elon Musk. They're not attached to Tulsi Gabbard. The second one of those turns into a turncoat, peace out. Peace out. I'm standing for what I stand for, not the person. So you start to go against everything that I stand for, I'm going to be against you.
Are you still recording? Oh, yeah. Nice.
Oh.
This will go on my Substack.
Okay.
You didn't say anything you wouldn't say.
Okay, no, I didn't. I know. I said douchebag. I do say douchebag a lot. I probably wouldn't say that had I known. You can use that as an outtake.
Great on my show. No, I mean, I had Robert O'Neill, the supposed shooter of Osama bin Laden, come on, and he dropped about 1,000 F-bombs on my show. So
yeah, man. What these guys have been through in our military.
Yeah, for many layers to what you just said.
I know.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that I look at is, people are like, how do you look? It's so painful to look at. I guess what I feel is, at the end of the day, if children can be trafficked and abused the way they are and sold into sex slavery, then I can be a brave enough of a person to learn about it and acknowledge what's actually happening. If that little baby, if that child can go through that, then surely I can brave up and learn about it and see what I can do to help that situation. Because turning a blind eye to the atrocities of this world is not making things better.
Yeah, that's right. And people, certain things they'll hear about will strain their belief, like, oh, these globalist guys like Bill Gates wouldn't really do this. But then on the other hand, we've been conditioned in other ways where, some Democrat, governor may say not even the day after a baby's born, it can still be aborted. Like, and on a table, like we can decide then if the child could be aborted. It's like that's a born child.
How about this one? How about, did you know that organs can't be harvested unless the person's alive? You have to be alive for your organs to be harvested.
Not like an organ donor. You're not talking about that.
Yes. If you die, your organs are gone. You have to be alive for them to take your organs.
Okay. So what does that mean? I mean, I know what you're saying, but like I die in a car accident and my organs are available, but I'm not dead yet.
You didn't die in a car accident. If you die in a car accident, your organs wouldn't be viable.
Okay. So say I'm
you
suffering.
have to be alive, and that's why
they would drug me up.
That's why they say you're brain dead, but you're not brain dead if your heart is still beating. Your brain is the motherboard, right? So if your heart's still beating and organs are still functioning, that means you're not brain dead. It's the same thing. And they get organs from babies.
Makes it a lot tougher to get the organs, I would think.
Yeah, and there's a high price on organs, specifically aborted organs.
Yeah.
And so,
well, I knew that, and I know about
and they're not even numbed. They're just barbarically cut open and taken. That's where I'm going with
horrible.
that.
Yeah.
I mean, once you learn the true atrocities of it.
Yeah. You'll hear, Sandra Bullock was on with Ellen, and they kind of made a joke of it. You know where I'm going with this?
I don't know where you're going with it, but I know about Ellen.
So yeah. Well, this actually didn't have to do with Ellen. This had to do with Sandra Bullock. She looked really great, and she, however old she is. And Ellen was like, how do you do it? Like, what kind of facial do you do? And she's like, well, and she got kind of awkward. And then Ellen was like, what organs are they using? And she was like, little baby penises. And she was serious. And it's like from the baby's like foreskin. It's foreskins basically. And they like had a nice laugh and the crowd laughed, but she was like, no, I'm serious. And it's just the weirdness there where they'll say it out loud, like what they're doing. Yeah. Now I know she's not going and harvesting them from, but they do
put stuff like that in cosmetics. It's so gross. I mean, but that's why people's heads will explode when they learn the truth of
what about the food deal with, what's the, Cinemix?
It's
not
wrong. Cinemix. That sounds like a cereal. Cinemix. You have it in your morning with your milk. Syntac or Sin. I know it's SYN.
But they are to make natural flavors.
Natural flavors have aborted fetal cells in it. Yes. Yeah, it has a cell line in it, I believe. Yeah.
And that's so weird. It's this like demonic kind of thing. It's like, but I remember I told my parents that. I don't know if they believe it or not, but they were like, "Who figures this out?" Like, how do you figure out that aborted fetal cells can help enhance flavor in foods?
I believe because it has this HEK in it, which is human embryonic kidney.
Okay, which tastes good, or
I don't know. I don't buy those products because I look them up and don't buy them.
But I mean, if you drink almost any carbonated beverage even.
I don't drink carbonated
So
beverages.
you stay away from anything that says natural flavors.
Yes.
It's hard to do.
I
I've tried to do it.
have a
but
soda stream, what I love. And I take my water that is filtered in my home and remineralized, and I add some carbonation to it. And sometimes I'll add a little apple cider vinegar and lemon and stevia to it. And I drink that or water.
That's awesome.
Alcohol sucks too.
Yeah.
They ask me, how do you look young when I go on my college tours? And I'm like, I hate to break it to you. There's no shortcut.
Yeah.
Like, there are things that are bad for you, and I don't eat them or drink them. Like, I love a good margarita, but I'm sorry. If there was a food that lowered your inhibitions, made you say dumb and crazy things, slur your speech, nauseous, vomit, have a headache, and pass out, it would be considered poison.
Mm-hmm. How long have you been off alcohol?
Maybe a couple years. Yeah.
Good for you.
It's not like I was ever heavy on it. I'm
Yeah.
a lightweight. I have like one drink and I'm 3 sheets to the wind. So
Okay,
it was
well,
never
that's-
it was never my jam.
Yeah.
But
It wasn't my jam until it became my jam. Yeah. And then I kind of had to back away myself.
yeah,
Yeah.
not good for you.
And it does mess with your skin. There's no doubt about that.
It ages you 100%.
Yeah.
And everyone's liver is in such bad shape because our food system is so bad. Most people are suffering from non-alcoholic fatty liver syndrome. The last thing you need to do is pour some gasoline on that fire with alcohol.
Yeah.
So,
Well, you good?
yep, I'm good.
All right. It was fun.
Yeah, it was fun. All right.
Second
so,
closing of the interview.
Second closing. Don't drink. Don't drink and drink, kids. Drink water and raw cow milk, which is illegal. Figure that one out.
Matt Walsh hates raw cow milk.
Well, he's entitled to his opinion. I guess that's his truth.
He thinks you'll get a disease.
Okay. He does?
He did a whole podcast on it recently. People hated on him so much for saying it.
Uh-huh.
He kept saying it like randomly.
Yeah.
That he doesn't believe in it. He thinks it's stupid. It should be pasteurized or whatever. And then he got so much hate that he did. And true, I commend him for this. He did like a funny podcast, like where for the whole hour he's going over the benefits of like pasteurization and hating on raw milk.
He's a funny guy.
He just went completely. He bucked
Right.
everybody to
Yeah. Do you know that if you fed a baby cow's milk from a grocery store, that they would die?
I've heard that.
Yeah, because it has no enzymes. And that's why people can't tolerate it. It doesn't have the actual enzymes in it. They've been cooked out of it. Just saying.
The more you know.
The more you know.
All right.
All right. That was good.
Cool. Can I just send you a WeTransfer with all the files? To the email.
And am I going to get 3 different video files?
You'll get 3 different video files. You'll get 2 different audio files, and you'll also get a video file